Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, November 29th, 2017, and this is episode 40. My name is Carol and I am known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog, and I also include them in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. So if you have anything that you're interested in, you should be able to find it there. If not, feel free to drop me a line, either private message on Ravelry or on YouTube, and I'll try and help you out. I'm on Ravelry the most, and I'm more likely to see your message there. Welcome to all the returning viewers, and also welcome to some new viewers and some new members of our Ravelry group. Thank you for taking the time to check things out, and I hope that you will, if you haven't already, come and join the Ravelry group and take part in the conversation there. We're a small but very welcoming group of people, and encourage you to stop by, check it out. And if you like, you can take part in the Agatha Christie Along, which is a very casual knit-along, crochet-along that I'm hosting in conjunction with reading my way through my Agatha Christie books in order of publication. I'm about a third of the way through, so this is going to run for a while, and I draw a monthly prize, and those prizes are drawn from the finished projects from the beginning right to the end of the knit along. So you could jump in anytime. There's no real deadline for anything. The rules, such as they are in the first post in that thread, and the second post has a whole list of suggested patterns. So I hope you'll come by and check it out. Full disclosure, I've already recorded the whole episode, and I went to edit it and found that my first chunk of recording, it wasn't recording. So I'm re-recording this up to a point, so you may notice a difference in lighting, etc. Hopefully it will run smoothly and you won't really notice much difference, but I've said all this before, and I'm hoping I'm not going to forget certain points as I revisit them, but here we go. So I've made a new cup of tea in my lovely winter-themed David's tea mug that I received as a Christmas gift last year. And I had David's breakfast tea before, but now I have Nepal Black. And there's the phone, so I'm going to put this on pause, and I'll be right back. Hi again. Sorry, that was my husband. I usually text him before I record so he knows not to call, but I forgot to do that, so won't matter to you. You haven't missed anything. So I was just saying, I've made myself a new cup of tea, refreshed my lipstick, and let's do this again. First, sorry, I feel a little distracted now. First finished project, there you go, are the Sloopy socks that I knit for my sister Jacqueline. So these are a Christmas present for her. They are named Sloopy socks because she has a cat named Sloopy who's very dear to her, who's aging and failing a little bit, and I thought this would be a good, almost like a hug from her cat every time she wears them. So the yarn I used is from Ancient Arts. It is their 3-ply fingering sock. And they have a Meow collection. They have a number of colorways that are dyed up in with cats used as inspiration, different types of cats. And a portion of the cost goes to, or the proceeds, I guess that's the right word, goes to animal rescue shelters or some sort of cause. I don't have the ball band in front of me. I've mentioned it before. So Sloopy is a Maine Coon, and so I'm using the Maine Coon Cali colorway. And this is the first sock I knit up, and you can see it kind of did these wide swirly things here, and then more narrow here, and then wide swirly here. And then sock number 2 knit up entirely differently, more even for the most part, just a little bit of that wide swirly stuff here. What do you call it? there's a word, obsessive compulsive part of me, that OCD, that's it, yeah. That part of me was tempted to rip out the first sock and try and make it look more like the second, but that's just silly, and I've come to peace with the fact that they are the same, only different, and I'm sure that Jacqueline will love them regardless. She has a number of my hand knit socks. She's extremely knit worthy, and I know that she will like the idea behind them. So I have her name for Christmas, and so I have to get these in the mail pretty soon, so she'll have them for the big day. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about those. Oh, and except to say 64 stitches, top down with a short row heel. My usual kind of sock recipe. These I think were knit on a 2mm needle. Most of my socks are, because I'm a loose knitter, so I tend to use a smaller needle. My second finished project, which you haven't even seen as a work in progress, are these socks that I knit for my grandson for Christmas also, and I'm calling them the Plants versus Zombies socks, because when my daughter saw the colorway, her immediate response was, "Oh, those just look like the colors in Plants versus Zombies," which is a video game that my grandson likes. I've never seen him actually play the game, but I know he has a book I've read to him before that's a story based on it. I thought it was kind of crazy. It's not my thing, but if it's his, it'll make him happy. And he has red hair, and his mom has often bought him clothes in like oranges and greens, and they look really good on him. So as soon as I saw this colorway, it reminded me of him. So I'm using this yarn, the Peyton's Croy FX, in the Clover colors. It's called Clover Colors. And the socks I did from the top down, again, short row heel. I just took the yarn from the other end of the ball to do the heels, so it wouldn't disrupt the coloring or the knitting down the front. And he likes short cuffs, so these just whipped right up. I think I started them Thursday after recording last Thursday, and I think I finished them Sunday, I want to say. Saturday or Sunday. It took like no time at all. And I used one ball plus just the very smallest amount of another ball just to do the last few rows of the toe. So I asked my husband if he would pick up another ball of this from Michael's. He works not too far from our nearest Michael's, which is about a half-hour drive from here. And so he did. And I just think it's so silly, but I think it's kind of cool. He was at the till, and I had sent him with the original ball band, and he's at the till, and the clerk asked him, I said, "Oh, I should check and make sure those are the same dye lot." And he's like, No problem. Been there, done that. I love that he knows to check the dye lot. And I kind of said something. He goes, "Well, I've heard you talk about it often enough." And I guess that's true. I just think it's cool he's actually listening, because, you're not always sure, right? So anyway, that's a couple of Christmas gifts that are done. I have a few works in progress. I don't think you've seen any of these yet. So the first up are these socks that I'm knitting for my brother-in-law, Stan. So I am calling these boot socks. I've actually knit these before for a different brother-in-law, only in using different colors. And it's my own pattern. There's lots of similar styled socks out there, and I just kind of made up my own pattern. I'll talk about the yarn, and then I'll talk about the socks. How's that? So the yarn I'm using is Elan A Series SO1, which is not much of a name. And the colorways I'm using are number 2 cream, number 15 dark gray, which is kind of a charcoal heather, and then this light gray heather, which is color 17. So I'm going to put a picture in here that you can see what the socks are going to look like when they're finished. And they are using, this yarn is sport weight, and when I knit them before I used a 2.5 millimeter needle, and I decided, I have this sense that they were maybe a little bit looser than I thought they should be last time. So I've gone down to a 2.25, and hopefully they'll be okay. I can get my husband, once I do a little bit of the leg, get a sense, I'm going to get my husband to try them on a bit and just see if they're going to fit okay. If they're too small, then I can take them back and switch to a bigger needle. But I just think it's a lot of stretch to it. I think they'll be okay. So yeah, you can see doing the cuff. I'm just started the leg portion, and then I'll do the cream color for the heels and toes. Other than that, it'll just be plain old stockinette sock from here on out. So that should knit up fairly quickly. Okay, might jiggle here a little bit. Got my ironing board set up with the camera. Just get everything out of the way. And then another work in progress is another pair of socks that I've just recently cast on for my husband Cameron, with plans to do these for Christmas. Oh, I should say these socks for my brother-in-law Stan are actually for his birthday. His birthday is on Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas. I think it's celebrated here and in the United Kingdom, but I don't think it's celebrated or recognized in the United States. But yeah, it's December 26th. And, so for Christmas for my husband, I'm making these socks. They're out of this yarn here, Super Sock from online. And it's also sport weight yarn. This is color 2028. And it's this, you can see they kind of knit up in a pattern like that, self-patterning pattern. And I've just done the toes. I'm going to do these toe up because I am not sure how much yarn they will take. I don't usually knit sport weight socks, and I only have, I didn't want to run out at the toe or something. So I'm going to knit them toe up. You can see it's just starting with this pattern here. And the same, obviously. This one is the same. And that stitch marker is just to mark the top of the foot for now, till I've done the heel. And I'm actually planning to use this charcoal that I'm using for a Stan's sock. The yarn and the bag, it's kind of stretched. I didn't want it to wiggle too much. So yeah, there's like a charcoal. I'm going to use that for the heel. Again, just sometimes doing toe up socks with a self-patterning yarn, it doesn't always, the heel doesn't always occur in the most attractive place. So this way, if I use this for a short row heel, I can insert it have a little bit more control over how the front of the sock is going to look. If I start to do a gusset and a heel flap, when I join again in the round, it may not join in a really nice place, and so that kind of helps prevent that. You can keep the front of the sock more continuous and just insert this at the appropriate place. So that's why I made that decision. This time I am knitting these on a 2.5 because the yarn is a little bit thicker. And I felt like a 2.25 was going to be too dense. And I held these up to some of his existing socks, and they seem to be the same width. So I'm hopeful that these will fit okay. So wish me luck on those. So with all that gift knitting, I really needed a break from stockinette socks, and I needed a little something with some, for myself, I guess, as something more interesting. Excuse me, just gonna take a sip. So I showed you some yarn in this pattern, I think a couple weeks ago. It's the Cedarburg shawl, and it is by Tabitha Hendrick, and this was done as a knit along for the Sweet Georgia Yarns group. There's the shawl in black and white. I think the copy actually shows the detail better in black and white than it does in color. But you have, it takes 3 colorways of Sweet Georgia yarn, or obviously you could use what you want, but I chose Sweet Georgia yarn. And you have a bright, solid, and you have a neutral main color, and then you have a multicolored yarn that goes well with your neutral. So when I was in Victoria a few weeks ago, I had picked up this Gold Mine yarn, Gold Mine, I think, yeah, Gold Mine, to go with this skein of Smitten, that if you've watched the podcast for any length of time, you know I've used this unsuccessfully in a couple of projects, but I think I've 3 times lucky. So you can see it's got this gold line running in it, so that matches really well. And then I have this orchid that goes with it. So those 3 together are what I'm using. So this is my main color, this is contrast color 1, and that's contrast color 2. So I'll show you what I have so far. Cast on with the main color, do a little bit, and then it runs into stripes here with the main color and your contrast color 1 or your variegated. And then you can see these sections are separated by a line of garter stitch of the other contrasting color. Then it moves into the variegated just by itself. Again, it moves into a striped section, plain section, and now the main color plain with this slip stitch design. So just give you a sense. There we go. So it's coming along nicely. Definitely 3rd time was the charm with this. I like the way the colors are playing together, and breaking it down into different sections makes it, keeps your interest, and but it's just, for the most part, garter stitch, except for this kind of section here. So there's not lots of thinking you have to do when you're actually knitting it. So this was a good project to kind of break up the monotony of stockinette socks. I'm not sure just how much more work I'll get done on that before Christmas, because I have a lot of plans for Christmas and gift. So as I mentioned last week, I have nightgowns I'm going to sew for my granddaughters. So I've got my younger granddaughter's measurements now, so I'm thinking later tonight or tomorrow I'm going to figure out with the pattern exactly how, you know, what size I need to cut out. I think I have to add a little bit of length to it, but just see which, you know, figure it all out, cut it out, and I can get going on that. I think this is one of those recording days where if it's going to go wrong, it will. I was just talking about nightgowns, and my camera shut off because the battery had run out. So I've got this cord and everything hooked up, and I'm trying this. I'm assuming that as long as it's set up to a power source, it will record. It appears to be recording, so let's carry on, and I'm almost done. I can go edit this. So I think I was just talking about how I have my younger granddaughter's measurements, and so in the next day or two I will compare them with the pattern pieces and figure out just how to cut it out so it'll fit her. So I'm looking forward to getting started on that. I haven't really sewn garments much in a long time, so other than like her Halloween stuff, but this is like a real garment, so I'm looking forward to it. I used to sew a ton of garments, used to sew practically everything I wore, but it's been a long time since I've done that. I tell you, if it was any later, I'd be drinking something stronger than tea after all that, and I just might pour myself a glass of wine when I sit down to edit. So more knitting coming up is, it's going to be December 1st on Friday, and so that means another pair of socks for the Grocery Girls sock bash, for their December sock bash. I have an idea of what I might cast on, but I'm still working on ideas for that. And I haven't seen, I checked the group again today, but I haven't seen any announcement yet on what their theme for the month is. I'm going to guess a Christmas or holiday theme, in which case I do have one yarn. It's an Arnie and Carlos yarn. It's actually called Garden. I'll put it at the bottom here. I don't remember what color number it is, but a lot of people have knit them as Christmas socks. So that's what I'm leaning towards right now. But I do have some, spoiler alert, I do have some Christmas yarn in the mail to me, but I don't know when it's going to get here. So I may not wait for that to arrive. I might use that as a cast on closer to Christmas, or I know little Danny, or Danny from the Little Bobbins Knits podcast, they have a Christmas Eve cast on where they people cast on a pair of socks and share what they're making. So I may save my Christmas yarn for that anyway. I don't know. To be, watch this space, to be determined. What I do know is I'm going to be very shortly casting on a hat and a scarf for my younger granddaughter in this yarn. Don't know if you can catch the sparkles in this light, but it's her favorite colors these days are pink and purple, and she loves sparkles. So this was kind of a request by her mom. This is Premier Yarns in their Itzhak Mizrahi colorway collection. And this yarn, the actual name of the yarn is Carnegie Hill. You can see that there. And this is the Merryweather colorway. So it's really thick, as you can see, thick and chunky. Should knit up quite quickly. I've looked at a couple of different hat patterns on Ravelry. One today in particular caught my eye. It had like a garter stitch brim and then a stocking stitch cap to it, crown to it, and then I think I'll just do a garter stitch scarf, because with this much going on in the yarn, you don't really need a lot of detail in the stitch pattern, because it's pretty well going to get lost anyway. So that should be pretty mindless, easy, quick knit. So the next project that I am knitting for sure is the Land of Sweets cowl. This is the first Knit Vent pattern in the 2017 collection, and Knit Vent is a pattern collection that Helen Stewart does every year leading up to Christmas, and a lot of the items are geared towards gift knitting, but this is going to be for myself. It's a really long cowl, and originally calls for 24 mini skeins. It's really long. Popping in here to say what I didn't realize the last time I showed this pattern is that Helen Stewart's disguised the actual colors of these yarns in the sample because they were from an Advent mini skein collection, and she didn't want to spoil everything for her knitters who might be using that collection. So I guess on after December 24th, she'll reveal the actual pictures of this this project with the actual colors. So wait, back to what I was talking about. And then it looks like this when worn. So when I heard it took 24 mini skeins, I immediately thought about my sock yarn leftovers and knew that I could put together some of those to make it rather than go out and buy a bunch of minis. Did I say I'm going to knit this as an Advent project? So I plan to knit one section every day from Friday all the way up till December 24th and have this as an Advent project. And so I went through my sock yarn leftovers and I put together, oh, that lighting is better than when I recorded it before. I put together a whole collection of mostly aqua, turquoise, purple, kind of colorways that have sort of light backgrounds with other colors in them, with those shades. And for the most part, it's sock yarn leftovers, although there are a couple of exceptions. So I know the camera is cut off just when I was about to show you this first yarn. The color I don't think shows up any better this time, but I'm going to stop here, blend it together with the next section, and hopefully I haven't left anything out. I am going to put a picture before I go of all these yarns taken last night in my kitchen as I had them all laid out more or less in order of what I'm going to use them. And forgive the lighting, it was dark, gloomy day. It's just my bright light from my overhead kitchen light. Speaking of dark and gloomy, we've now lost the sunshine. The sun's about to go down, so I hope the lighting's okay. I'm going to go upload this to my computer and start the editing, and I'll leave you here with the rest of the podcast. Chances are it may not make it out now until tomorrow morning, but anyway, enjoy the rest of the show. Bye. So this is color number 1. Color on the camera that I see is not quite accurate, but it gives you an idea. Kind of a turquoisey color with a bit of purple in it. This obviously is not a sock yarn scrap. There's a couple of balls that I'm breaking into just for the sake of matching. I bought this in Alaska a few years ago. I can't remember which city I bought it in, but it's Alaska Yarn Company, and this is Forget-Me-Nots is the colorway. So I have been looking at this. It's been calling to me for a long time, so I'm happy to actually get to use it for something, even if it's only for a little bit right now. But one day I'm going to find the perfect project for this. So yeah, I just have, there's like day 2, very pale lilac. Day 3, very pale aqua with the same lilac. So what I'm trying to do is have each yarn have some relation to the yarn beside it. And I've laid it out in what I think is a pleasing way, and I reserve the right to switch things up if partway through I decide I want another yarn. But my goal is to just grab my ball of yarn and knit my one section each day during Advent. So is sort of a long-term project, and it's a little bit of me knitting in the middle of all this gift knitting, which I think will be welcome. Now, I honestly don't know if I'm going to get to this. This might be wishful thinking. But the second pattern that came out for Knit Vent is this tulle shawl. Again, by Helen Stewart. Curious Handmade. And it's inspired by obviously a tutu in the ballet. Her whole collection is inspired by, I think it's the Nutcracker. And so in here she mentions the Sugar Plum Fairy, and I just happened to be, I was putting after looking at yarns yesterday for the Land of Sweets cowl, I came across this this skein that I've had for a couple of years from Stunning String Studio, and it's her Stunning Superwash, and it's called Plum Pudding. And I thought, oh, would that be pretty knit up in a shawl? And then this one has some beads, and I've had this little container of beads for quite a while, several years, probably, oh, I'd say at least 5 years. And I think they match. Probably I'm not going to be able to show you very well. Let's see if I put them in my hand, if that helps. It's going to come up close to the camera and see. Whoops. Without them running away. And there's the yarn, which is not showing up 100% accurate either. Anyway, gives you an idea. So I would love nothing better than to start that sometime between now and Christmas. Whether that happens or not is going to depend on, you know, the rest of my knitting and life in general. Call me crazy. I have a couple of cross-stitch. One is a kit, one is the pattern and all the supplies that I put together. Christmas-themed cross-stitch. And they're large and they're detailed and they're beautiful. And I had this crazy idea the other night. I drug out my, have a container of, it's like the kind of like Rubbermaid or something that slides under your bed. I have 2 of those with my stitching supplies, but one is just kits and patterns and things that I haven't actually used. The other's more supplies. And I pulled them out and I was looking them over, and I was just itching to start one. And I'm just thinking, no, you need that like a hole in the head. But one of these days, I really do want to do one. So anyway, I just, yeah, I'm just itching to do some more cross stitch, but I have to work it in, and I just don't have the time right now. And not that I had any delusions that this thing would be done before Christmas, don't get me wrong, but I just had the itch to work on it. Because I've had the supplies for a number of years now. Okay, let's move on to sewing. I'm just going to reach over here. Last week I showed you some fabrics I picked up for some bags. And I did do a few more bags up. I did a couple of these. It has this kind of star lining. Oh, love it. And then I did up a couple of these ones with the little forest animals. It has that as the bottom, and then the lining for these snowflakes. And then this one I really like too. Kind of birds in the forest. With that same bottom and the same lining. So some of these are going to be gifts. I've kept one of these for myself. One that I kind of goofed up. So again, I in addition to all the other things I want to do, I have some other these bags I have to sew up, and also I bought some more fabric of this one that I want to make into a zippered bag. So crazy? Did you know that there are only 25 making days until Christmas? I did the math, and that's not including Christmas Day, because you don't want to be crafting on Christmas Day, finishing up a present. But yeah, that's why it really is crazy, because when I look at what needs to be done and the time I actually have to do it, it's kind of silly. I haven't read a lot this week, but I did. I'm just going to reach here. I did finish this last night. Poirot Loses a Client by Agatha Christie. This one actually, as a lot of her books, you know, the person you're leaning to doesn't turn out to be the murderer, and it's often one of the least suspicious characters, and that's kind of how this worked out. Although by the end, I had at least some of it figured out. So I can't say the ending surprised me, but it wasn't exactly how I thought it was going to end. This week, I also began listening to an audiobook. I've been watching the news, and they had a little segment on audiobooks and how there's a trend with well-known actors to start reading audiobooks. And so one of the examples they had was Colin Firth recording the end of the affair, and they had he had a few comments to make about that and what drew him to the idea of doing audiobooks, and this book in particular. Now, I had seen the movie years ago, and so I remember liking it. I thought I would like this story, so I bought that off of Audible and started listening to it the other day. He has a very nice reading voice, for sure, and I haven't really got into the story. I think because of what I was doing at the time, I wasn't paying enough attention. So I think this will be a story that'll keep me more company when I'm just doing some knitting and can concentrate on it more, because I did like what I heard. So time for some acquisitions. As I'm sure most of you know, last Friday was Black Friday, a big shopping day. It used to be just in the US, I think, but now I think it's most places. And so I don't generally get too much into Black Friday, but this year I actually did take advantage of it for a couple of Christmas gifts. That worked out great. One was for my sister that lives in Toronto, and she's already received it, ordered it Friday, and it came, I think, on Sunday, late Thursday night, so technically Friday, and she got it Sunday afternoon. So that's perfect. And then I ordered something for my son, and it just came yesterday. So I love shopping that way. One thing that I treated myself to is the David's Tea 24 Days of Tea. So it's like an advent calendar with a different tea for every day. I have to say, not that I have to justify it, but I had to justify it to myself. Normally, it's a very expensive product, and at full price, there's just no way I could justify it. But they had it on for a really good discount, plus by purchasing a certain amount, you got a gift card. And then I saw when I opened this, there's actually another little coupon in here. Don't worry, it's not a number. You're allowed to open that anytime. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I'm gonna go for it. And a lot of times too, when I mostly like black teas. I'm not big on flavored teas, but I read over. They don't tell you what drawer, what number all the teas are behind, but when I read over the teas that were included in here, there were enough of them that I thought I would like, that made it worthwhile. So I am looking forward to Friday, opening my first drawer and making some tea and working on my Land of Sweets cowl. So I think that's going to be a nice little routine during the lead up to the holidays. A little me time every day, knitting on my cowl and sipping my Advent calendar tea. So looking forward to that. Can't wait. Another thing I ordered that actually, I didn't order this till Monday and it came today, Wednesday. I have spoken before about classical stretch, which is an exercise program that I have done for a number of years, and it's produced by Miranda Esmond White, who's a former ballerina with the Canadian National Ballet, I think National Ballet of Canada. And it's a technique that kind of combines aspects of Tai Chi and yoga and ballet and Pilates and just her own movements. And another word, she came up with it, anyway, she has a show on PBS. And I purchased the latest season, so there's 30 episodes in there. Last year she wrote a book called Aging Backwards that's done really well in that sort of book genre of health. And somewhere along the line she adopted the name Eccentrics, which a lot of her products go under now, and I think that's aimed at a sort of a younger audience. Sounds a little more hip. But eccentrics basically is just eccentric stretching, which is you never really hold a stretch. You are always moving, but you're stretching and strengthening at the same time and toning up. So I have been, ever since I got back from our holiday, mid-October, I've just been dreadful about exercising. So that I'm hoping will provide the motivation to get going on that again, because I'm feeling it. I feel so much better when I do this. Right these days, my one hip that's really been aching and just don't have as much flexibility, and I really need to get back into it. And then they had a deal on shipping, and so there's a couple new DVDs that she had with just shorter. They're not as many workouts. This one has, I think, 3 30-minute workouts, and this one has a full body 1 hour, and then a few little mini ones. So what I like, I have every season that she's put out, and although I don't have 12 because not all of them were available. But I have a lot of these DVDs, and what I like about it is I can do a different one every day, so I'm never getting bored doing the same workout day after day after day, which I remember I had this when my kids were little. Oh gosh, this would be like my youngest son just turned 28. And I can remember doing this, when he was about 2, I'd walk the kids to school and come back and do this while he was having a nap. And it was an old Mary Hart, remember from Entertainment Tonight? Mary Hart workout. And I could, in my head, knew every single thing she was going to say, everything she was going to do, because I did it so many times. But it did help me lose the baby weight, I have to say that. And then I fell into, first thing, I ordered some yarn from Sweet Georgia Yarns website, and that was because I was trying to find a particular colorway that I couldn't find anywhere else. The London Fog that I want to go with some other yarn that I have. And then if I was buying one skein, and they had a 30% off coupon code. So I thought, I might as well order some more, So I picked out 3 other colors for another 3-color shawl. That seems to be where my mind's going these days. I'm really into the idea of 3-color shawls. So they should be, I think, shipping shortly. So I'll show those to you when I get them. Then I did something very out of character for me. I know a lot of indie dyers have shop updates and at a specific time. And, if you really want their colorways, you have to, mad scramble to get it in your cart and pay for it before somebody gets it out of your cart and, snatches it out from beneath your eyes. And I have tried, I know a couple times in the past, I have tried to purchase something on a shop update, and really it was a lesson in frustration. And honestly, a lot of the times the yarns that I'm looking at, by the time I do the US to Canada dollar conversion and add shipping, it's usually just too expensive for me to justify. So I'm not in a habit of doing that, even though I definitely admire a lot of hand dyers out there. So as it turned out, Thursday night, before I went to bed, I was watching the latest episode of 90% Knitting, and Lisa it was actually, the whole episode was devoted to her shop update for Fiber Nymph Dye Works that was going to go live the next morning, and she had a sale on all weekend. And she was featuring her winter and holiday colors. And way back when, I think one of her very first holiday colors that she came up with was the elves were in the eggnog. And I've wanted that colorway ever since. I've always really admired it. It's just a really fun, I think it's 5 stripes of bright pink and green and white. And so that was one of the colorways that was in her update. And I thought her update was going to be 6 a.m. our time. And I thought, okay, I'm not subscribing to the craziness of setting my alarm and getting up. I'll get up when I get up, and if the yarn is still in the shop, then I'm going to order it. And as it turned out, probably because it was on my mind, I woke up just a few minutes before 6 o'clock. And I thought, okay, I'll go try. I'm up now. And so kind of hit refresh a few times, and lo and behold, it was live, and I was able to purchase a skein of that and 2 other skeins of holiday yarn, one of which, or actually one's a soft blank that I had admired from a previous year, and another brand new colorway that just touched me with the name, and I'll show them off when I get them and talk a little bit about them more then. But I have some Christmas yarns coming in the mail. So kind of exciting. I don't tend to buy them, holiday yarns at all. I did, a few weeks ago, I was on Love Knitting, and they had the Hollyberry colorway from West Yorkshire Spinners. And as you know, I've knit quite a few of the colorways from the West Yorkshire Spinners collection, and I thought that would be really fun. And I put it in my cart along with a few other things that I was thinking about, and then as I often do, I'll leave it, and until I really feel positive that I'm, have everything I think I want or need, or feel like I could, feel okay about purchasing them. Because I don't. I mean, I could go online every single day and fill up a shopping cart of all the pretties, but I just can't do that. I can't press buy on all of that. That's just ridiculous. So I really do generally think about my purchases for quite a while before I make them. Well, as it turned out, I thought about this one too long, because when I went back on the website a few days later, it was sold out. So for me, it was like, okay, not meant to be. So the fact that I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and that I was able to get the yarns that I wanted, I figured that was something I could treat myself to and live with that. So if that wasn't enough blabbing already, I'm going to talk a little bit about my week this week. Now, those of you who've watched before know that we used to play casual, very casual volleyball over the winter months with some friends every week. And for the last number of years, we've participated in a volleyball tournament for charity. And you meet, you play against other casual kind of teams. You end up having time to play 2 or 3 games. You keep score, but it doesn't really mean anything. And it's just mostly to have fun. And you take an unwrapped toy to donate. Every person has a unwrapped toy to donate, and then our team registration fee. It all goes to charity, so it's a good cause. This year, Cameron and I didn't. Well, this year we're not playing volleyball. Long story, but we couldn't get the school gym the way we used to, and so this year we didn't take part in the tournament. Cameron injured his foot a few weeks ago, so he wasn't playing, and I just felt out of shape, rusty at volleyball, and just really didn't want to do it on my own. Cameron had to work Saturday, and so I decided not to participate this year, but some of our friends still did. So we went down, they had a Friday night game, so we met them there, had a drink at the venue, and then some of us went out for dinner. So it was nice to see some friends and have a bit of a night out. And then I was feeling kind of under the weather from like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Really just sort of some mild cold and flu symptoms, achiness and congestion, and just generally not feeling well, lethargic and all that. So laid low for those days for the most part. Did a lot of easy, like that's where those stockinette socks just whipped up, because I didn't feel like anything too complicated, but could easily concentrate on that. Did a little bit of sewing, but kind of had quite a laid back weekend. So on Monday afternoon, I undertook quite a big job. I knew I wanted to pick out yarns for the Land of Sweets cowl, but since knitting my sock yarn scrap blanket, all my sock yarn leftovers were kind of mixed up in a bit of disarray. So I did already have them sorted into more or less into solids and semi-solids and multicolored and self-patterning / self-striping. So the basic categories were sorted, but what I did is I took each of those and laid them all out and organized them into, well, I organized the solids and semi-solids and the multicoloreds into color families, and then put them into Ziploc bags in the different color families. Because what happens is, I had them all in big bags and bins, but what happens is as you're rummaging through, they get all messed up, and the yarn ends start to get tangled. I had one bin that I just had this big clump of yarn I had to untangle. Typical, my husband said I would have just chucked it, right? Is the difference between him and me. But yeah, so I did that, and then I separated the self-striping from the self-patterning yarns, because I have a project in mind for those, and I wanted them divided up. Plus, they were outgrowing the the one zippered bag that I had them stored in. So that was something I've been meaning to do for a while, and felt quite a sense of accomplishment when I was done. And now when I go to look for yarn here, I'll just grab this for instance. It's right over here. So this is all my multicolored yarns. So within that, that's just like a bag that you get like a comforter or blanket in. So within this, I have yarns that kind of are in the same kind of color family. So I've got this whole thing is filled with bags of yarn. And they've all been, you know, they're all wound and they're all like with like. So when I do go to choose projects for a scrap, or go to choose yarn for a scrap project, it's a lot easier to do now. So, yeah, so that's when I was listening to The End of the Affair. But like I say, that I had to think a little too much. Couldn't concentrate on the book quite as well as I would have liked. But it was a good thing to have in the background. All that was going on here this week. It was a pretty uneventful week, which is just fine with me. I like those, especially as we are now gearing up for the holidays. Friday's December 1st, and to me that always signals the, well, it's the beginning of Advent. I am not a really religious person, so I don't celebrate it as a religious event anymore. I did it growing up and such, but to me I think it's still that December 1st signals that lead up to Christmas, with the countdown, I guess. So I know from past years of watching podcasters, there's a thing called Vlogmas, which is basically when video bloggers or podcasters will sometimes do a series of short videos every day leading up to Christmas. And it often takes a different format than their usual podcasts, and it's usually quite a bit shorter and such. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to do that this year. So I'm gonna, I can't promise I'll record every single day, but I'll try. They'll be clearly labeled Vlogmas Day 1, Day 2, etc. So if you're not interested, they're easy. They'll be on my YouTube channel, but they'll be easy to skip over if it's not something you're interested in, because I know not everyone is. But I'm going to try every day to record, you know, a short segment. I'll probably tell you what tea was in my advent calendar and maybe show off my stripe for the day on my cowl. And just show you what else I'm working on and maybe what's going on that day in my life if it's a little bit out of the ordinary. I thought I might squeeze a craft room tour in there if I can ever really clean this place up. I thought that would be a fitting place for it. So yeah, so look ahead to some more, some shorter, more casual recordings. I will see how things go as far as my normal recording goes. It is a rather time-consuming thing. Basically, when I do an episode, it takes pretty well the whole day between organizing everything, writing up show notes, and recording itself, editing the podcast, and then it takes quite a while to process before I can upload it. So while it's processing, I can do other things, but it's a lot of time involved in with the holidays and with my rather ambitious list of potential Christmas knitting or gift knitting that I'm doing. I may not record every week, but we'll see. I enjoy it. I don't like to miss it, but just a heads up, it might be a little less frequent regular episodes, but if all goes well with Vlogmas, you might just be content with some shorter little updates. So that's I guess all I have to say about that. I don't know exactly what form everything will take, but I think it's going to be kind of fun going a little bit out of the regular format and doing things in a little more casual fashion. So yeah, so watch for that if you're interested. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Hope your crafting, whether it be for gifts or for yourself, is going well. And yeah, if you're in the northern hemisphere, stay warm, and in the southern, stay cool, because I know you're kind of at the height of summer now or coming into it. So yeah, just Take care, everybody, and happy knitting. Bye.